Hi there and welcome to an evening with Queensryche. Late last year, Seattle's original rock band returned to the scene with their new album, Promised Land. And tonight we're joining Queensryche in Paris on their European tour to find out all about the new record. Now that means in-depth and revealing interviews with all 5 band members, along with Queensryche live performance excerpts and videos galore. And we're also going to be taking you behind the scenes to find out all about Queensryche's amazing staging and production on the Promised Land tour. So for the next 2.5 hours, which is just about the same amount of time that Queensryche are on stage on this tour, you should be prepared to be amazed by your journey to Queensryche's Promised Land. From Paris, it's all coming at you, courtesy of Europe's #1 rock show, Headbangers Ball. Well, if you're a regular viewer of Headbangers Ball, then you'll already know that Queensryche are one of my favourite bands of all time, so I can't think of a better way of starting off this Queensryche special edition of Headbangers Ball than with Revolution Calling from the 1988 album Operation Mindcrime. We're in Paris for this Queensryche special and making a very welcome return to Europe. We've got Queensryche, of course, on their European tour, and I'm joined by Jeff and Chris first up tonight. So, like I said, it's really great to have you guys back in Europe, and we're joining you actually quite near the beginning of the tour. Have things got off to a smooth start, bearing in mind you've got quite a big production and staging out on the road with you?
Yes, it's a smashing start, really. We've had we had about 5 days of rehearsal in Glasgow, and then the tour is going along smoothly already. We've got a really good crew of people that have been working very hard on putting it together, and the band's playing well, and the audiences are turning up to see the show, so everything is good.
And of course you've been back on the road now for the first time, I think it's in 2 years, so how are you feeling getting back into touring mode and all being back together and everything and traveling? And
that's great to be back. Actually, this is the smoothest where's the wood to knock on? This is the smoothest production so far at the beginning of a world tour that we've had, which is a real compliment to our crew, who's worked very hard, and ourselves. We can pat each other on the back. We've been rather well prepared for this. We did some rehearsal in Seattle at home before we came out too. So yeah, we're really excited, and people seem to be having a good time at this show. So
things are off to a smooth start. Good. And we're going to be showing you some Queensryche live performance excerpts throughout the show, so watch out for those. But guys, we want to talk about the Promised Land album, and I think it has been well documented in interviews that you did take a year off. I know you recorded Empire in 1990, toured for 2 years, took a year off, then got into the writing and recording for the new album Promised Land. How important did that year of downtime actually turn out to be?
Well, it was really important. We decided that just to get a fresh perspective, we needed to disconnect, as it were, from each other.
Unplug.
Yeah, just for a little bit. And just try and touch our feet back on the ground, away from the spotlight, and away really just from the music industry. I think it was real healthy for us to do that, and it wound up just focusing inwards. The Promised Land album is a bit of a psychological tour de force. A lot of self-analyzation, and we had a lot of fun digging up all the old garbage out of our our compartments in our brains, and coming up with what we felt about it. So.
Well, that does take me actually nicely onto my next question, because you did enjoy multi-platinum success with the Empire album, but listening to Promised Land, I somehow get the feeling, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here, that success was kind of like a double-edged sword for you guys, and that you experienced a downside to it as well.
Well, I think one thing, if I can elaborate on what Chris was saying, at least from my perspective, getting off the road was a time of really looking at where I had been and where I was at the particular moment after the Empire tour, and in order to figure out where I was going to go next. And for me, I know doing a world tour like what we did with Empire was exhausting. And I mean, although it was very successful and we all had a great time doing it, it takes its toll on you to tour like that. And I didn't even want to listen to music when I came off the road, and I found that very shocking because I've always loved music. And taking that year off and not listening to anything and just kind of listening to what was going on in my head was very, I don't know, I guess it paved the way for new inspiration, you know. And I found myself falling in love with music again. One day I had an idea, and that began, you know, the road to working with the guys again and putting together new music. So in a sense, it was the right thing to do at the right time.
So a lot of self-analysis went on for this record. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we've got the very first video from Promised Land on the way for you right now. And this is I Am I. And I think we could say that this is a song kind of about finding your true self, finding your identification in life.
Exactly.
Good. Well, I summed it up for you. This is Queensryche from Promised Land. This is I Am I. And we'll talk to the guys some more after these videos. Shortly to be seen right across Europe as support to Megadeth, that was Corrosion of Conformity with their excellent new video, Clean My Wounds. They get the seal of approval from Headbangers Ball, as of course do Queensryche. It's a Queensryche special here on the show. The whole entire 2.5 hours dedicated to the band talking about Promised Land. And I'm going to press you a little bit more on what we were talking about in the last interview, Jeff and Chris, because I would say that the album title track perhaps best sums up the overall theme of the album, and I'm wondering, is your Promised Land being able to balance your professional lives with your personal lives rather than this whole American dream idea?
Well, yes, now it is, but part of writing the album, for me at least, was recognizing that I had sort of bought into that American dream and was pursuing success and all the trappings pretty diligently, you know, throughout my life, because that's how I was brought up. And I think taking that year off and doing a lot of soul searching and reading, and it sort of taught me to ask questions even more about everything in my life. And I think we all tend to take a lot for granted, you know, as we grow up. And because all our input is basically what we've been taught, you know, by our parents. And when we started working on the album, we were asking these questions of ourselves: who are we? Why are we here? And how did we get here? What is important to us? And we sort of came up with this conclusion that there are three main areas that sort of are three main influences that shape the individual, and that is your parents, institutions such as schools, the military, corporations, just the whole business sort of mentality, and the media.
The media.
And so...
hence the beginning of the IMI video.
Exactly. And so we sort of focused on those three areas and wrote songs based upon that theme and how the media has affected us, how our parents have affected us, and how these institutions have affected us. And that's basically the album in a nutshell.
But also I think how success affected your personal lives as well, because when you reach a certain level as you did, you know, you have, if you're going to continue and be happy outside of the band, you have to be able to balance the two, don't you?
Yeah, we took a real close look at the definition of success, and I think that where Jeff's comment about we're sold a certain commercial in our consumer society that's so programmed into commercials of what success is supposed to be, and others judge us, all of us, by what we do and how much we make and all of these things. And you know, we just started realizing that success has to be it's a definition that only the individual really should be able to answer for themselves. I shouldn't be able to determine what someone else's success or passion in life is, or goal, and they shouldn't do that for me. So Promised Land is really an affirmation of the individual. It's a very positive message that's in this album, buried beneath some, tough psychological kind of lessons and stuff, but it's really talking about that people really hold the key to their own happiness if they just go search for it, and find it, and exclude the pressures of society trying to shape them into something that they're not, or someone else's version of what they should be. That we really all hold, the key to our own happiness within ourselves, and each of us, it's something different, for everyone. And for us, we realized that years ago we hooked up and we shared this passion in music and for music, and that this was at least from what we want to do with our lives, whether we make money or not, that was what that part of it was. And then a personal life and love and family and something is a different thing too. So I hope people, when they dig into the album, if anything, they just come up looking at themselves again, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm really the one that should decide what I should do in this life while I'm here. And I hold the key to my own destiny and happiness, and no one else does.
I agree, and I think if you find spiritual and inner happiness, then the rest falls into place, doesn't it? So I think that's a very good point you've made.
But we all seem to try to jump on this bandwagon of judgment. We judge each other by the clothes we wear, our haircuts, the kind of music we listen to, and really at the end of the day, all that does not matter,
Well, thank you for that insight. I think that's very interesting. Moving on to the kind of following on from that, actually, all the band members were involved in the songwriting and the lyrics and so on. And it's interesting that there is this common theme running through the album. It could almost have been written by the same person if you didn't kind of look at who wrote what. Do you think that this makes Promised Land Queensryche's most honest album ever? Because it seems that you kind of lived the record before you wrote it.
Well, gosh.
Maybe I'm being too profound here.
No, I think actually that this is probably the first album that is a sum total of all the other albums in our life experience to equal, this album. The others were, perspectives and sort of pontificating on what we saw going on around us. But this really is the reflection. This is us standing in the mirror and kind of just telling what it is that we see, in a way that is not superficial. It's not surface stuff. It's trying to dig down deep.
Well, we're going to dig down some more, much deeper, after the break, but we do have to go to commercials right now, and we're going to talk to the Queensryche guys loads more and talk about the recording and writing of Promised Land. And taking us into that break, we are going to show you a little excerpt of the guys live here at the Elysee Montmarte in Paris.